welcome to the Vin Armani Show. We are streaming live on YouTube at youtube.com/Vin Armani, also on Twitter and Periscope at Vin Armani is my handle there. And we are streaming live on the Facebook page of our content partner, Activist Post. That's facebook.com/Activist Post. Well, it's Monday morning, 10 a.m., and we are coming to you from fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, where the temperature has finally broke. And now it's going to be cold in like a week, so we get 3 days of good weather. So congratulations. Congratulations, Vegas. We've got a great show for you today. Our guest is the founder of Press for Truth, Mr. Dan Dix. He's going to be on. I really am looking forward to this conversation. He and I met in Acapulco at Anarchapulco, and he gave a wonderful talk there that was very prescient. This was back in February, and I think a lot of the things that he said have come into being even for us with our getting banned from Facebook in the last 2 weeks, Activist Post getting banned, basically because of a discussion we had about sex robots. You can go back. We've covered that in the last 2 weeks. Check that out. Very interesting story. Dan had some thoughts on that, and as sort of a greater whole, we're going to definitely talk to him about that. We've got some great stories for you today as well. We're going to talk about the tweet storm of the week. Crazy tweets. We're going to talk memetics a little bit. I think that there's a lot going on. We're going to talk also about the growing change in authoritarianism that's moving from state to private, and that's going to lead us right into our discussion with Dan. So I think this show is going to be a great holistic look at a single very important topic or very important theme that we really shouldn't be ignoring. And to help us do all of that, as always, my good friend, co-host and producer, Mr. Christian Reyes. Christian.
Good morning, Vin.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's been a very, very busy week for me.
Yeah.
Got the vodka.
Nice.
We are ready now.
Yeah,
we are ready to sell this vodka. I don't know if you could see. I was looking at this while I was sitting here with it, that this was one of the first bottles that we engraved of this thing. 2013 November.
Wow.
So we were way far out ahead. We have been, up until now, just because of both the way that the law is written for the craft distillery law, the way that the distributor system works in Nevada and nationwide, and the way that payment systems have been set up, technologically, we have been stuck kind of here in Vegas.
Yeah.
Of course, we've sent bottles to friends and VIPs who are in other places, but to be able to do it on any kind of scale, we have been unable to. Very interesting that now cryptocurrency is allowing us to to move it out. So I think this is a great discussion to open up, to talk about alternatives, right? So if people want to go and purchase their own bottle, why don't we just throw this up and we could talk about how this whole thing went down, because I think it's super interesting. We're going to talk today about how things are going wrong, but I think that the most important thing is to lead off with how things can go right and the alternatives, right? So I'm very hopeful this week because I'm seeing, oh wow, this is interesting. This is how a lot of alternatives happen. So to let people know, we've talked about it before. Baby vodka is distilled at Las Vegas Distillery, and it's how you and I both met.
Right. Yeah.
You were running the store that they had at the time, and I went in there, met the distiller, George Rotz. We hit it off. I said, let's do a really, what's the most like ultra premium kind of thing that we could do? Let's do like a Lamborghini, small batch, like crazy good spirit. So we decided that we would do this, work together, put this together. You know, I went out, designed the bottle, got all of that. He put together, handcrafted this really cool vodka that's blue corn and Nevada wheat. It's amazing, right?
Very silky.
It's crazy, dude. Like I had never had anything like this, and I was like, okay, this is a standalone product. The problem is that, well, one, the distributors here, basically in Nevada, it's two distribution companies, Wirtz and Southern, and they have like a duopoly on all of liquor. And so Las Vegas Distillery is distributed through a smaller boutique distributor.
Yeah.
Wirtz and Southern hate George. He's basically got the craft distillery bill passed. He's the one who got it passed in the first place. So the way that the law is written is that George can sell, or Las Vegas Distillery can sell, per person per month, 2 bottles from out of their location. But George can't ship it, right? He's unable to do that. Then there's a lot of regulations around that. So, we would be in a situation where, we've gone out, we've had VIPs and people who are interested in getting the vodka and whatnot. And so then it would be a very simple process of us, engraving the bottle, sending it to them, taking it to them here in Vegas. But there was always this weird situation of like, is it really being sold at Las Vegas Distillery? Is it being sold through us?
Yeah.
But we can't really, we can't technically sell it, because we don't have a retail liquor license, so it has to be very, But along comes cryptocurrency. What's so interesting, so George and I sit down. The great thing, like Andreas Antonopoulos calls it, programmable money. I think this week has really shifted my mind and flipped my mind into understanding what the real value of this is. I mean, we talk about smart contracts and whatnot, but even on a simpler level. So what's happening when somebody orders is that, and they agree to this in the terms of service, you go to babyvodka.com, you order your bottle, and you make one payment, but what that payment does is on its own programmatically, it sends the bottle price to George, that pays off, it sends it to Las Vegas Distillery, that pays off all the taxes and the bottle, so that it's legal. It sends the reservation with your name, and you authorize us to be your agent to go and pick it up. So what happens with George often is somebody wants to, say, get a bottle of his bourbon, and they're staying here in town, they're staying on the Strip. Well, we're considerably off the Strip. So they'll call and say, hey, I want a bottle of the bourbon. Here's my credit card. Here's my name. I'm going to buy it, and I'm going to send somebody from the hotel, the butler or concierge or whatever, to come and pick it up. Or I'm going to send a member of my family to come pick it up. Or I'm going to call for a courier to come pick it up. That's essentially what we're doing here, and cryptocurrency allows us to do it.
That's cool.
So we never have to touch the bottle money, and George never has to touch the engraving and the handling money. So we go, pick it up. At that point, it's completely legal. We're acting as your agent, and we ship it out. So it's like this great, part of agorism is, and it's why we say black and gray markets, right? But so much of it is neither the black market, I guess gray market, maybe you could call it that, but it's like working within, understanding the law, sitting down and really finding a way to, somebody might call it, we're operating inside of a loophole, but it's not a loophole.
No.
It's just like, here are the law says the things you can and cannot do. We comply with the law, but we do it in a creative way. And this is what corporations do all the time.
All the big guys, I hear Grant Cardone and all the big guys talking about how, he even puts up posts about how to what does he say? How to avoid the IRS or something kind of clickbaity, but and he's doing the same thing. You just follow exactly what they tell you.
Follow it.
But you do it in a creative way.
That's it.
And
and this is where real so much entrepreneurship happens, right? And this is why I say part of agorism is to know, you have to know the law better than the person who's enforcing the law.
And you have to know the communication behind it.
It's true.
Every word and every detail.
You got to go over it with a fine-tooth comb. So this was hours and hours and hours of George and I sitting there and being like, okay, so what if we do it this way? Then what if we do it this way? Then what if we do it this way? And constantly also asking each other, do you see anything? And me talking to my lawyers, and it's like, do you see any place where we are potentially in violation? No? Okay, fantastic. Well, then let's move forward. But this is how all great enterprises, there's always I don't want to say a trick, but there's always something creative that's being done, right? And the environment, the regulations are part of the environment. So you do it that way. So that's awesome. So we've got that going, right? People can go babyvodka.com and check that out. Then, as you're wearing your Crypto Savage shirt, Already some orders have come in on governyourself.com, right?
Started coming in, yep.
Orders have started coming in. People want the shirts. If they want the shirts, why don't you show them some of the shirts? I put some examples. So this is your Crypto Savage, and I see that we have them in multiple colors.
This one's been
well.
a popular one.
Keep calm and avoid taxation. That's the women's tank, but there's a men's tee of that as well, right? Multiple colors. Got the Murray Rothbard on the blackboard there. I really like that one. I'm gonna have to get that one. Litecoin, and then you have Ethereum.
There's a couple other, and I have more designs going up too.
Excellent, dude. So you're gonna keep adding to those. So if people want those shirts, why don't you throw up the link for them there? governyourself.com. So we've got that. So there's that. People can show off their crypto savagery. And then, of course, the book. Self-ownership. People can go to selfownership.me. Whoa. It went away. Huh. I didn't put up a, or I didn't bring a copy of the book. Every single time that I have some to bring, then there's orders, and I end up shipping them all out. So it's like, thank you to everybody who's ordered those. People who order the digital copy as well, that's all hosted on IPFS. And I've got some new I've got some new news coming about IPFS. I've been playing around with the technology and doing some very, very interesting things. So there will be some new news with that as well. Maybe potentially even another YouTube competitor. Maybe another place for people to, yeah, it's close. I'm working with another buddy of mine.
Other than DTube?
This is way better than DTube.
Wow.
Way better.
Great.
Doesn't require you to upload anything. It actually turns your web page in the browser into its own node.
Whoa.
Without you doing anything. You just press a button, select the file, boom, it gives you the hash, it's on IPFS. You don't even upload it. There's no central server at all even to upload to.
Amazing.
So you right now with DTube, you upload to DTube, they convert it to IPFS, then it's good. In this case, we take that completely out. You are a node. Your browser becomes a node without you loading anything. It's running all in JavaScript in the background.
Yeah, that's cool.
Very, very. I didn't know this technology was there until this week. So I'm feeling super encouraged, dude.
Yeah. Yep.
Super encouraged. And by the way, all of that stuff, cryptocurrency. Everything we're selling, cryptocurrency.
Well, this is the alchemy of the entrepreneur, because
I like that.
As you see the flaws and the voids in the industries, there's opportunity behind that. So you can easily come in there and create a technology or a product or a service to fill that void.
You know, I was talking last night. Met a new friend who is who's been an accountant for a long time, CPA in New York. And she just brought up this idea. She just brought up out of nowhere. So we're just talking. I was talking about insurance, and she just brought up, you know, my uncle's been telling me that I should get involved with Bitcoin. And I was like, oh, you just you messed up. You opened the floodgates.
Yeah.
But what was interesting is as we sat and spoke, you know, I was telling her certain things that were going on with laws and whatnot, and she was like, oh, well, like, for instance, how they're doing the thing with the $600. I don't know if you saw that there's this bill in Congress that says, all right, if it's a below $600 Bitcoin transaction, we're not going to require that you report it. She was like, oh, that's because $600, that's the same amount for contractors. Like, that's a magic number.
Right.
All of this that's already there.
Yeah.
I was like, oh. And what I realized was that all these people are getting involved in the speculation side and all of that. Where it's at is selling products and financial services.
Yeah.
Like, to actually provide payment processing, to actually provide all of these things, it's like that market wide the fuck open, dude.
And
that's the big money too.
It's the big money. It's the beginning stages. The technology's already there. It's like,
it's great, bro.
Crazy.
So I've been hopeful this week, but I do want to talk a little bit about this Trump tweeting with the NFL. We won't get into it quite yet, right? Trump tweeting with the NFL, the NBA. So it starts with, I found this very interesting, and I was following it, right? Because I was like, what is really going on? What is happening, right? I had my mind on North Korea, The healthcare thing was big. What I noticed was those were the two big first stories on Google News. I always look at Google News because I'm like, this is what's in the zeitgeist. It was North Korea, and it was healthcare. Then Trump tweets, like apropos of nothing, that because Steph Curry of the Golden State Warriors is waffling on whether or not he wants to visit the White House, then he's rescinding the invitation. All the NBA goes crazy. People go crazy. Then, in the midst of that, it's almost like to like further add fuel to the fire, out of nowhere, Trump is like, and it was interesting that he did it. I think he did the tweet. When did he do the tweet? On Friday? The one about the NFL, about NFL players standing for the anthem.
Oh,
it was Friday.
I think it was Friday.
I found it very interesting because it's like, you would think that if he was responding to something, it would have been on like Sunday or Monday when the games, after the games, right? No, he did it on Friday leading up. And then all these players doing all this. And now you go to the top two stories on Google News. It's all about kneeling during the national anthem and all of this.
It's everywhere.
And then in the midst of that, like to take it to the next level, and I knew he was going to do this shit, then he invited the fucking Pittsburgh Penguins hockey team to the White House, who are all white dudes. Like, just stirring the pot. And I was like, what is this? Like, what is he doing? It wasn't until the Penguins that I realized, oh, this was all planned. This is Trump. He doesn't give a fuck.
No.
He doesn't care. This has nothing to do with race. What he's doing is he really is so fucking cynical.
Yeah.
And the thing is, he's being proven right. He thinks he's smarter than everybody else. Now, this is a man who won the presidency. This is a man who's been successful in a lot of different things. He's not a dummy.
No.
Clear, you can't be a dummy and have achieved in your life what this man has achieved. But he's being proven right. That, like, because the way that people respond, it's like he's a puppet master. He's playing them. He's like, I'm going to get you fired up about something I don't even give a fuck about. He doesn't care. Trump's not a fucking racist.
No.
Trump doesn't give a fuck.
For that shit.
He doesn't give a fuck. I guarantee you, if there's somebody that he's choosing to put on his team, and the black guy or the black woman is the one who would increase his bottom line, she's going on the team.
For sure.
And getting full support. That's all he cares about. If she contributes more to him winning, that's who he's going to go for. Because, as Thomas Sowell says, prejudice is free, discrimination has costs. And Trump's a businessman. So he's playing. But it would be just trolling if it didn't serve the purpose of totally distracting people from... Like, because I don't think he wants to escalate this war with...
I don't think so either.
With Kim Jong-un. But I think really they're trying to pull it back a little bit. Like, he's doing this push-pull thing. Maybe try to get this dude to the negotiation table. Who the hell knows, right? But we all know there's no military option. Like, everybody knows it.
Yeah.
And, but his tweets, man, this dude is using tweets in such an effective way. And it's part of our first news story here. There was Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert, has this great video. I'm going to put a link in the description where he has been describing for a long time, and I like where he comes from when he talks about Trump. So he's got a background as a hypnotist, so he knows about persuasion, and I have a background with the art of seduction. I mean, I've even written a book about it. I'm a professional at it. I'm very skilled at understanding these sorts of things, and I've studied neuro-linguistic programming and all of these sorts of persuasive techniques. And yeah, he's right. Trump's doing something with these names. So Trump did the Rocket Man, but if you recognize, he's done this before. This is a normal thing, and every single time it's worked to destroy his opponent. Low Energy Jeb took Jeb Bush out. Lion Ted took Ted Cruz out. Crooked Hillary, where's she at? Right? And now Rocket Man, and then taking it even further, we're going to discuss that. But tweets, there was, we talked about Bernie and the healthcare last week, and it got really silly. So our favorite characters were back. Now they're buddies. So let's start with tweets. Other people don't. We're just going to show how they don't know how to do tweets. And Trump knows how to use tweets. They're trying to use these tweets, though. So let's go with first, Insane in the McCain, John McCain, who said on the 22nd, tweeted, "I cannot in good conscience vote for Graham Cassidy." This is the bill that's like a heavy repeal of Obamacare. "A bill impacting so many lives deserves a bipartisan approach." This is John McCain. So John McCain trying to torpedo this bill. He's doing it just to spite Trump. And he came out today saying that the prognosis on his brain cancer is not good at all. So he's about to die, and this guy is he's as just crotchety as ever. And the response was amazing. This Bernie tweet. Bernie responding to John McCain. "Thank you, John. You have the conscience that I wish very much the rest of the Republican leadership had as well." So, Christian, Bernie Sanders, socialist, supposedly peacenik Bernie Sanders, wants the rest of the Congress to have the conscience of insane in the membrane. Remember, I don't know if you recall this clip where John McCain was like, he was talking to some small fundraiser for his campaign or something, and he was like, they were like, "Well, what do you do? What are we going to do about Iran?" And he's like, "You've heard the old Beach Boys song, Bomb Iran, Bomb, 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 Bomb Iran." Like, that's Jesus. That fucking psychopath. Yeah. His conscience is who Bernie. "Thank you, John. You have such a good conscience, John." And it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, exactly.
That's not how you use a tweet. That's not how you use a tweet. Let's show how you properly use a tweet to your political advantage. From the master. Here's the thing. Whether you like, and this is what you got to do. It's called giving the devil his due. And it's very important that whether you like somebody or not, whether they are your friend or your enemy, you do yourself a disservice if you don't acknowledge their strengths. How do you beat someone if you don't acknowledge their strengths? So I hate Donald Trump. Like, he is a narcissistic sociopath. I think he's a terrible person. But you got to give the devil his due. Yeah. The dude is getting done what he wants to get done. He's executing his strategy to a fucking T. Yeah. And when people see this Scott Adams video, they're going to be like, "Oh, yeah, I just watched that." You just watched it, right? I sent it over to you. He's on point, right? He's like, totally. You're like, okay, yeah. Yeah, I get it. It makes sense. So let's see Trump. Oh God, it's so I didn't know what he was doing. It's so brilliant when you understand what he's doing. Let's do Trump, Rocket Man. This is from the 17th. "I spoke with President Moon of South Korea last night, asked him how Rocket Man is doing. Long gas lines forming in North Korea, too bad." So this is what we know about Trump's opponents. He goes after them personally. He throws an ad hominem, and it cuts deep. Like, he cuts deep. So Rocket Man, he's not even going to call Kim Jong-un by his name. Right? You can come back to us before. So we'll do like a little preview of basically what Scott Adams said. Here you have a guy who lives his entire life surrounded by people that if they were to call him Rocket Man, they would be dead. He could just execute them. Right? So this guy, you've got to figure the only way that you develop a thick skin is by having insults hurled at you, by having haters. Like, you got to have haters to have a thick skin. Yeah, absolutely. I really thank God in many ways for the experience of being on the reality show that I was on. The first 2 seasons, the hate, bro. Oh, I'm sure. Oh, like, this is the thing that fucks people, that turns all these reality stars into lunatics, dude.
Oh,
and
yeah,
all these celebrities and
yeah.
shit is because it's like the hate. Well, what is it on Jimmy Kimmel where they read the hate tweets where the actual
don't
people
know.
come? You've never seen these clips? It's one of the late night shows. I don't know. I think it's Jimmy Kimmel. They have stars come on and read real hater tweets about them, and it's just like it's hard to imagine complete strangers, hundreds of them, just attacking you. But this is what happens. But you develop this super thick skin, or you go crazy. It's one or the other. But this guy, why would he have a thick skin? And here's this very high value individual who, now mind you, Rocket Man is doing all of this, and they've said to try to gain a parity with the United States, right? To try to gain a military parity, to try to be respected by the United States. But here you have a show of complete disrespect. Not only did he call him Rocket Man in a tweet, he called him Rocket Man in his speech at the UN. And this is what Scott Adams talks about, that somebody asked Nikki Haley about it, the UN ambassador, like, why did Trump use Rocket Man? And she laughed and she said, you know what's funny is like one of the delegations from one of the African countries, I forget which African country, came up and said, oh, so how are you guys dealing with Rocket Man? So everybody in the world now, all the leaders are calling him Rocket Man. Right? This is what we used to call AMOGing.
Yeah.
Right?
It's exactly that.
That's exactly what it is. This is in pickup. Alpha, it stands for alpha male other guy. Right? So you walk up to a group where there's another guy who is clearly he's the alpha male. This is actually how you can steal guys' dates away from them, is that AMOGing. That whatever it is that you see that they're putting forward, you like subtly tear it apart. Right? So if it's their car, you insinuate that they're overcompensating for something.
Yeah.
If it's their clothes, whatever, you're like, oh man, that's awesome that you're a little overdressed for this, but I mean, it's cool. It looks like you put in some work, or like, whatever. It's like, you like subtly, you don't really insult them, but you kind of like, so the thing is Rocket Man an insult? Like, Kim Jong-un is definitely into these rockets. Like, it's a big deal. He calls him Rocket Man. Well, he's definitely going to take it as an insult. And you notice that it made him actually, in a rare address, come and actually get on himself and read something. That's how pissed he was.
Yeah.
And then Trump.
And that's when he had him.
Oh, and then he went in for the kill, dude. This little one. Oh, my God. Just heard Foreign Minister of North Korea speak at UN. If he echoes thoughts of little Rocket Man, they won't be around much longer. Fuck, bro.
Well, see, that's the thing, too, is like, even the girl will start to AMOG a little bit, and she's kind of...
Oh, they love to.
Yeah, and she's kind of testing. And if you crack, you're done. That's it. Game over.
Shit test.
Yeah.
Shit test.
That's it. Game over. But if you pass, if you just kind of,
It's a very interesting dynamic, the way that it happens, dude. So it's this little Rocket Man thing. What Scott Adams said that was great is like, so up until now, he has been, you've seen these pictures of him so happy when they launch a rocket and doing all of this, and they celebrate there, and the news person says, our glorious leader has launched another rocket and they've done this and it's wonderful. Now Trump calls him Little Rocket Man. And it's like, and really, compared to the US military, he is Little Rocket Man. Right? It's like, whatever that little rocket you have, we've had thousands of those since the 60s. You know what I mean? We have rockets that could shoot down rockets. Like, we've got lasers and shit. Like, you're just a little rocket man. Like, that's all you are. Okay, great. You're a little rocket. Like, now, is he even going to, what's he going to feel like now every time a rocket launches? Right?
Exactly.
He's going to
feel made fun of.
He can't feel 100% good about it because he's going to be wondering, like, what's the insult going to be from the rest of the world about Little Rocket Man? He's made me a laughingstock. I bet you he stopped showing up to the rocket tests. I bet you stopped seeing pictures of him smiling and happy about these rockets.
And yeah, it's brilliant. And what people people fall right into Trump's trap, and they miss the fact that if you want to beat Trump, play his game.
You got to ridicule him.
Yeah.
Don't take him seriously.
Exactly.
This is, but I've been saying
yes,
this,
you said
right?
it.
I've said this from the jump. Like, you can't, if you take him seriously, you lose. You lose, and that's the amogging. That the only way to beat an amog is to laugh it off and to go back at them, right? Like, because that shows you have a level of confidence. So, dude, these are all like, these are persuasion. People don't understand. This is techniques that you can learn. Like, these are techniques that I learned. So what that's called is, it's called qualifying.
Yeah.
So what you're trying to do is, it's when somebody questions your value, you go and you qualify and say, no, no, that's not true. And that's what Lil Kim did by getting on and doing the thing
right
himself.
Into
He
the trap.
qualified. That's what these players are doing by kneeling during the national anthem, is they're qualifying.
Well, they just gave, you mentioned this earlier.
Oh, dude. David Frum, who I fucking hate, wrote a great article, though, where he was like, don't cede the national anthem and the flag to Trump. Like, why would you do anything? Like, why would you kneel during the national anthem? All you do when you do that to protest Trump is you give him the national anthem. Like, you just made him even more of a representative of the United States. No, your job is to be like, you're the president. Not only am I not going to kneel, but what I'm going to say is, you don't represent America.
Exactly. You put up a mirror.
You don't represent America at all. You should be fired. You think I should be fired? I represent America. I'm standing here with my heart over my chest. I'm a real American. You don't represent America. You know, it's interesting that, like, that's, you know, I'm in this court case with the city of Las Vegas about my art gallery. And because they did a whole bunch of things where they violated my Fourth Amendment rights and all of this, so we're going through this long fucking process. And at the end of this process, I'm fucking suing them, right? So we got to go through this process. They trumped up all these crazy charges. I'm sure I'll do a documentary about it to let everybody know. I'm just trying to not taint the well right now, right? It's been over a year and a half in dealing with this thing, and it keeps getting continued. We're ready. But when we go into court, I'm wearing an American flag lapel pin and American flag tie. Because my whole point is, you're breaking the Constitution.
Exactly.
I'm the American in the room. You're not. But that's not what these people are doing. They're separating themselves. And that's exactly what Trump wants.
The second you start to argue with somebody, you lose power.
They've already won.
Yeah. And instead of arguing with them, because once you argue with them, you accepted the communication. You accepted the concept that they're putting forward. But if you question them back and put up a mirror, you get internal with them too. So you allow them to start questioning themselves. Well,
it's like if somebody says the sky is purple, and you're like, well, sometimes it is purple, I guess, at certain times. But if they're like, the sky is yellow something, and you look up and you're like, okay, or grass is purple. You're like, you don't even argue it.
No.
You're just like, well, you're a fucking idiot.
Yeah, you just say, well, why do you think the grass is purple?
You're a moron.
And then they're going to be like,
so, I mean, I don't even need to engage with you. But to be like, I'm going to protest Trump by saying that the national anthem and the flag, that he owns that, and since he owns that, I'm going to protest it. It's like, whoa!
Look at all the power you just handed over.
You just gave away
seriously
your right to the national anthem. Like, imagine if you were joint owner of a business, right? And somebody was like, I don't think that guy should be. You're a shareholder of the business, and it's like, I don't think that guy should have any shares. I don't think he should have any dividends. I don't think he should be a part of this company. And how do you protest? You're like, well, I'm just not going to show up to the shareholders meeting, and I'm never going to go in there.
Yeah, he gave
and
up
it's like, yeah, that's what he wanted. That's what he wanted.
Your power.
Like, you just turned a whole bunch of people against you who were not against you at all. That dude on the Steelers who walked out and, like, held his hand over his heart, like, he went a little too far. It was a little too fucking dramatic. But what a great move, personal move on his part. There was no fucking downside to that.
No, there was a lot to learn from that too. I was looking at that and I'm like, one, this guy actually, the marketing that he just put out was huge. Everybody's
you know how many fucking jerseys he's gonna sell?
And
holy
why?
Shit!
Because he did all the shit that everybody else wasn't doing.
That's right.
He just was a rebel.
Well, but and in a way, it's like you gain nothing from the kneeling because 99. You know, you saw the pictures of all those kneeling people. What you didn't see from all the kneelers, you didn't see who all of their names.
Yeah.
Right? They didn't say what the media didn't say what their names were. They showed the pictures, and people got angry at them. And then maybe the people who were really angry would go and look at their numbers and look them up. They probably didn't even know who the fuck they were. Right? But that guy, his name, it's Villanueva, right? So it's like,
and he was before nobody knew his name.
Nobody fucking knew that guy. Nobody knew that guy. It's very, very interesting. So, as they ramp up and Rocket Man gets more pissed, here we've got this last little piece on this, because this is telling us this North Korea thing, man. It could go wrong. It could go wrong in a lot of ways. Throw up this threats thing. This is from Reuters. Trump cranks up North Korea threats as Pyongyang holds anti-U.S. rally. U.S. President Donald Trump dialed up the rhetoric against North Korea again at the weekend, warning the country's foreign minister that he and leader Kim Jong-un, quote, won't be around much longer as Pyongyang staged a major anti-U.S. rally. North Korea's foreign minister Ri Yong-ho told the United Nations General Assembly on Saturday that targeting the U.S. mainland with its rockets was inevitable after, quote, Mr. Evil President Trump called Pyongyang's leader a rocket man on a suicide mission. Mr. Evil President. These guys are horrible at the roasting, man. They're the worst. So this is Trump's tweet. Just heard Foreign Minister of North Korea speak at the UN. If he echoes thoughts of Little Rocket Man, they won't be around much longer, Trump said on Twitter late on Saturday. Trump and Kim have traded increasingly threatening and personal insults as Pyongyang races towards its goal of developing a nuclear-tipped missile capable of reaching the United States, something Trump has vowed to prevent. U.S. Secretary Steve Mnuchin on Sunday tried to dial back Trump's comments. Quote, the president doesn't want to be in a nuclear war, and we will do everything we can to make sure that doesn't occur, he said on ABC News. On the other hand, the president will protect the American people and our allies. Analysts say the heated rhetoric is increasing the risk of miscalculation by one side or the other that could have massive repercussions. So this is where we're at in terms of the state. War is the health of the state. I've been saying that that a war is gonna happen with North Korea. It's gonna happen in some way, man. Like I do not see this thing de-escalating at this point. I don't.
Well, did you see that thing that I don't know where this came from, but it said North Korea at the UN. It was like on disclosed TV and stuff like that.
Yeah, they gave a speech. The guy gave a speech.
And he was basically saying like,
but they always are blustering, saying that they're going to attack. Here's what it's mutually assured destruction. But the problem is, this guy is sitting, or he can wait Trump out. Like he can easily wait Trump out and keep doing his thing. And you know what? I mean, I think they're going to get a nuclear weapon. They are, and it's just a question of, you know, how does this go down? I don't think they can prevent them from getting a nuclear weapon, and the only way that they could do that is military action. I still believe that there's a false flag in the waiting. I believe this is being set up, man, as a boogeyman.
Yeah.
I believe there's a false flag coming.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want it to happen, but I believe that there is. And I believe that different than even what happened with 9/11, where you had at least enough independence online. Like I remember even in the early days, the website Hunt the Boeing. That was one of the things, like in the 2 weeks after 9/11. I remember just in the week after, the Department of Defense put up a photo set of the attack on the Pentagon. And I remember looking, and I was like, that hole is way too small. Where are the blade parts? Like all this shit. And they took that down. But luckily people had saved it, and they put up a site called Hunt the Boeing that kind of did the exact same thing. That's what made me, before I knew anything about World Trade Center 7, right? I was like, there's something very wrong here. something's wrong about the story at the Pentagon. Like, something's wrong. So I was, within weeks, I was like, okay, and just looking at the original source material, but hey, that's just, that's me. But luckily, there wasn't that level of staunch control over information. The internet was still relatively free. Mm-hmm. That, as we see, is changing. It's something we're going to talk about with Dan Dix too, and it's also news number 2. So, as you know, 2 weeks ago, activist post Facebook, which basically contained nothing but clips from this show, was taken down completely, the account completely terminated. And there have been a series of things that have happened in the last several weeks, primarily with Facebook, but there are other things happening with Google too, and we're about to see a changing of the guard in terms of the gatekeepers of censorship. Now, as anarchists, we have, and libertarians, we have been worried about the state for a very long time. But what the state is very amorphous, and this is something that I've been talking about and tried to explain. I know it's a difficult concept. We're going to get into it with a little bit with Dan Dix, because it's something that's on his mind as well. But I do want you to think back to, there was a time when, for instance, the Catholic Church was the state. What we know as the state now in terms of government is relatively new. There was a time when the state was the Pharaoh God King and his edicts. There was a time when the state was an all-powerful sovereign monarch, a king or a queen. What the state is changes. At the time when it was the Pharaoh, the system that we have now would seem crazy. Like, how would that even come into being? But an idea of a corporatocracy is already upon us, and control of information, read 1984, the control of information is the key to the control of the population. So, this week, very interesting story, and I think a harbinger of things to come. I'll throw up this Facebook story. Mark Zuckerberg outlines a 9-step plan to prevent future elections from being hacked on Facebook. This is from Business Insider. On Thursday, Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg outlined 9 steps that Facebook would take to, quote, protect election integrity and make sure, quote, make sure Facebook is a force for good in democracy, unquote, including the delivery of $100,000 worth of Russian-linked ads to government officials and investigators. Quote, I care deeply about the democratic process and protecting its integrity, Mark Zuckerberg said during a live broadcast on his Facebook page. I don't want anyone to use our tools to undermine our democracy. Quote, this one's crazy. We are in a new world, Zuckerberg said. It is a new challenge for internet communities to deal with nation states attempting to subvert elections. But if that's what we must do, we are committed to rising to the occasion. As part of Zuckerberg's announced changes, Facebook will start disclosing which pages paid for political ads on its platform, a move that Democrats on Capitol Hill urged the Federal Election Commission to force this week. The vice chairman of the U.S. Senate Intelligence Committee, Mark Warner, said Wednesday that there are likely, quote, a lot more, unquote, fake Facebook accounts affiliated with Russia than what the company has so far disclosed in private briefings with committee staffers. He said the committee, which is tasked with uncovering any Russian interference with U.S. elections, plans to call Facebook executives to publicly testify on Capitol Hill in October. And then here's a good graphic summarizing Zuckerberg's 9-step plan from Parsons School of Design media professor David Carroll on Twitter. So throw up this 9 steps. Here is what they're going to do. 1. Provide 3,000 Kremlin ads to Congress. 2. Expand search for attackers. 3. Disclose purchasers. Republish untargeted ads. 4. Enhanced ad moderation. 5. Hire 250 more election integrity employees. Censor brigade. 6. Partner with election commissions. 7. Partner with cyber threat specialists. 8. Repurpose anti-bullying tools for political harassment. That's interesting. 9. Focus on German elections for now. So, Christian, very, very interesting. This quote, again, I just want to say it. Zuckerberg said, we are in a new world. It is a new challenge for internet communities to deal with nation states attempting to subvert elections. But if that's what we must do, we are committed to rising to the occasion. So he's saying we are the new world order.
Exactly.
He literally said,
Yeah.
we are the new world order. And then in describing their 9 steps, throw those 9 steps back up again, because this is what I find interesting. So the word fascist is thrown around a lot, but fascism is an ideology that was created or coined by a philosopher named Giovanni Gentile, who was one of the top advisors for Mussolini. And basically what fascism, the idea behind fascism is that there is no separation between the public sphere and the private sphere, right? So you don't have this strong public-private separation like you have in, well, increasingly less, right? But the idea in our society, right? Like, this is a private business, they can do X. As a private citizen, you can do X. If it's a public institution, it has to do all of these other things, etc. In fascism, it's kind of a hybrid. It's not full blast like communism, where the means of production are like outright owned,
right.
But it's this, you kind of have private industry, but you have such a high level of public regulation and partnership between the two. So that's a lot like what communist China looks like now, where they have this market economy, but they still have that high level. This, though, the things that they're doing, hire 250 more election integrity employees. That's going to be a revolving door. That's going to be a revolving door, because who are you going to hire? You're going to hire former government officials.
Yeah, clearly.
These are going to be elections officials, right? Has to be. Then partner with election commissions. Now, the fuck? The fuck what business do you have as a private institution partnering with election commissions? Like, have newspapers, which have political ads in them, have they needed to partner with election commissions? Like, and what does that even fucking mean?
Right.
Partner with cyber threat specialists. Who are these cyber threat specialists? Again, revolving door. We're talking NSA. We're talking CIA.
Yep.
Right? We're talking Mossad. Repurpose anti-bullying tools for political harassment. What the fuck is political harassment? Is that arguing about politics on Facebook? That's every fucking post on Facebook.
Seriously.
Right? And then focus on German elections for now. So they're about to go worldwide with this shit.
They're gonna shoot themselves in the foot with this.
I don't know, man. You can come back to us. It's the idea that it doesn't matter how the vote turns out. It's who counts the votes. But now it's taken even further. Like, it's who controls political ads. Like, they're going to get to the point where they can control what the messaging is. Like, they could start shutting down certain candidates. Like, no, we don't like him. Well, he can't communicate. Nobody could advertise on his behalf. Or just set up a straw man, right? That it's like, set up a fake. Yeah, it's coming from Russia. It's coming from a Russian ISP. It's a fake thing. It's a straw man. And, oh, yeah, we've recognized these guys are bad guys. And, oh, they bought ads for these 5 candidates. You've just tainted those 5 candidates. Guilt by association.
Yeah.
Right? So,
Interesting.
This has been a problem with Zuckerberg, man. It's been a problem for a very, very long time. And this guy, this is even back, I want to show something from back in 2010. This guy, I know, my belief is that he is very, very high on the autism spectrum. And I believe that has left him without a high level of empathy, right? That he doesn't have much empathy. And so for him, it's more about what can be done rather than what should be done. And when it comes to ideas of privacy, when it comes to human rights, individual rights, this guy, I don't think he even has the capacity for it, because I think his autism prevents him from having it. This is from 2010. When asked a question about privacy, some people have seen this. Talk about literally sweating. Watch this clip, man. Throw up this Zuckerberg sweat.
Do you feel like it's a backlash, or do you feel like you're violating people's privacy? Do you feel like you're adequately portrayed as a, because I want to wonder about the person who actually created this thing.
Yeah, I mean, you know, a lot of stuff happened along the way. I think, you know, there were real learning points and turning points along the way in terms of building things. You know, it really went from this position very early on where we were just in this college dorm room to, we moved out to California. It was a few friends and me. And, you know, it just kind of had this project feel for a while. And there was this real turning point when companies started trying to buy the company for a huge amount of money. And, you know, I had to kind of get my friends together and we had to decide what was it that we really cared about and what was it that we wanted to do. And, you know, we decided not to take those offers. And, you know, to me, a lot of that decision was that what we wanted to do and what we wanted to spend, you know, a big part of our lives doing was just continuing to push and kind of build products that help people share information, build products that help people stay connected. And that's really what we're spending our time doing. And you know, I think you know, there's just been a lot of space between that early stuff and where we are now. If I knew what I knew now then I hope I wouldn't have made those mistakes. But I can't go back and change the past. I can only do what we think is the right thing going forward.
So, before we move off this privacy thing, and I thought that was a fascinating answer.
It's okay. You want to take off the hoodie?
You know, I never take off the hoodie.
I know you don't. What's with that? There's a group of women in the audience that wish you would. And
no.
Girls?
Whoa.
All right.
Sorry. Yeah, that's okay.
Can you explain what this instant personalization thing was that you did, and why you did it, and what's the value of it to your users?
Maybe I should take off the hoodie.
Take off the hoodie.
Go ahead.
You want to? You want? Go ahead.
Wow. Talk about sweating, bro. Christian. God, that says it all. Let people see you, dude. That says it all, bro.
Yeah, seriously.
I mean,
that was making me feel awkward.
There's body language, and then there's like body betrayal. Like the fucking sweating, the non-answer about privacy. The degree to which it was a non-answer tells you everything you need to know.
Everything. And
that was 7 years ago. That was 7 years ago, dude. Like, what it's coming to is we are going to willingly hand it over. This is the symbolic representation of the mark of the beast, right? The thing about Revelations, why Revelations keeps coming up, a lot of people say that it was because it was, I think it seems like a psychedelic trip, right? Like, it's very reminiscent of ayahuasca trip or a lot of mushrooms. A lot of mushrooms. When you take a lot of mushrooms, you could go to that place. But it's more like an ayahuasca-style trip. But what you get is this symbology, and it's this idea that, like, people are going to take it on their own. People, are, like, they've taken the mark of the beast.
It's the vampire.
They've let them in.
Yep.
Like, people are on. I use my Facebook page, but I have not posted on my personal Facebook in probably 3 years. And even before, because I was like, God damn, like I was seeing people just give up all this information. And I was like, man, this is going to come back to haunt you. Especially my friends who would have all these fucking pictures of them out drinking and shit. I'm like, God, what are you doing? Like, this is not going to be good.
I tone back my Facebook usage a lot.
I mean, I use it professionally because it's a good way of getting things out there. Yeah, I use it to promote the show. You know, I use it for my tweets.
Right.
But in terms of interacting, letting it, like, putting a location stamp on something, it's like, fuck that shit. Oh, I'm out here at dinner. I'm over to, fuck that. You are not knowing where I'm at. That is fucking crazy, man. If I post something from somewhere that I will post that shit, which I almost never do, but I will post that shit the next day or 2 days later, right, when I'm no longer there. So this is all about the Russian elections, controlling the narrative. Let's just talk about the narrative before we go to Dan Dix. While I'm reading this, why don't you go ahead and hit him up and just let him know that we are almost ready for him to be on. Let's throw up this 21 states. This is from the Washington Post. DHS tells states about Russian hacking during the 2016 election. The Department of Homeland Security contacted election officials in 21 states Friday to notify them that they had been targeted by Russian government hackers during the 2016 election campaign. 3 months ago, DHS officials said that people connected to the Russian government tried to hack voter registration files or public election sites in 21 states, but Friday was the first time the government officials contacted individual state election officials to let them know their systems had been targeted. Officials said DHS told officials in all 50 states whether their systems had been attacked or not. Quote, "We heard feedback from the secretaries of state that this was an important piece of information," said Bob Kolaski, acting deputy undersecretary for DHS's National Protection and Programs Directorate. "We agreed that this information would help elections officials make security decisions." He said it was important that the states shore up their systems now, quote, "rather than a few weeks before the 2018 midterm elections." In only a handful of states, including Illinois, did hackers actually penetrate computer systems, according to U.S. officials, and there is no evidence that hackers tampered with any voting machines. In Arizona, the Russian hackers did not compromise the state voter registration or even any county system. They did, however, steal the username and password of a single election official in Gila County, state officials said. Friday's notifications were made after state elections officials and some federal lawmakers expressed frustration that Homeland Security had not yet disclosed the extent of the Russian attempts to infiltrate voter registration systems. So Christian, the headline is, DHS tells states about Russian hacking during the 2016 election. There was no Russian hacking. Nobody got hacked. One Gila County official in Arizona had their username and password stolen. But you really question, it's like, but was their username like so bad, like, and the password
yeah,
stolen,
password
like,
123.
oh god, jeez, yeah, password was password 123. Oh my god. So this is, I mean, this is where we're at in controlling the narrative. But the problem is, if there's no alternative media, if the voices of alternative media are being squelched because the private gatekeepers, people are relying on the private gatekeepers, we are not actively developing alternatives, and we get caught with our pants down. And, you know, like the situation, luckily we had things mirrored on IPFS, we were on DTube, we were in other places with our videos. But if, for those people, you know, a lot of people are getting demonetized. That's surprising to a lot of people. People have gotten their Patreon shut down. That's surprising. It catches them with their pants down. Right?
And then they got to start all over again.
Or not.
Yeah, or just
right? Because
stop.
it's like you may be in a situation where it's just like, it's too much fucking work, forget it. You know, because it's up to the person. How hardcore are they? How discouraged do they become by what happens?
One thing you could do too, I did this recently. There's a downloader, a YouTube downloader where you can just pull all that stuff and put it on.
I mean, you should have it archived, but at the end of the day, it's like if you have tens or hundreds of thousands of followers and you lose those followers, and it's something that you've built up over the last decade. There's a lot of people who are like, I don't want to do that decade again. I'm just gonna go into the private sector, and I guess that piece of my life is done. They're counting on that. They're counting on that.
Yeah, that's why it's good to have an email list too and all that stuff.
I mean, it's good to have alternatives. The thing is that as a community, what we are starting to do, I'm seeing it, but what it's put a fire under my ass to do is the technology is there for us to have alternatives, and certainly the blockchain is a big piece of that. For us to now be out actively developing these alternatives. Not only is there a great business opportunity for those people who do develop them, but it's in high demand. And that's the only way that we stand any chance of winning what's coming up, or even surviving it as the alternative media, because they're trying to control the narrative. It's working out well for them. So we are going to, I think it's good. We've got Dan. I see him on hold. We will go to break. We'll come back with Dan Dix from Press for Truth. We're going to talk about all of this. He's got a great outlook on it. And I think this is going to be very, very great. So let's go to break. We'll come back and do counter markets, and then Dan. Welcome back to the Vin Armani Show. We are streaming live on YouTube at youtube.com/Vin Armani. We're also on Twitter and Periscope at Vin Armani is my handle there. And we are streaming on the Facebook page of our content partner, Activist Post. That's facebook.com/Activist Post. Before we get to our guests here in the second hour, just a little message about countermarkets. Countermarkets at countermarkets.com, trends and strategies for maximum freedom. We're sitting here and we're talking about building alternatives. And so that's why we started Countermarkets. It's been great. This entire year, we've had some very great issues. This particular issue is fantastic. It's kind of our list issue, probably the most information that we've had in a single issue because we packed it in. Every article is basically a list. The top 5 this, the top 7 this, 7 things you should be thinking about this vein. What Countermarkets is made for is it's to really address those alternatives. And for those people who are ready to really do something, for those people who are ready, it's not about getting into the streets and protesting. It's about they're trying to control a narrative. We can take back control of the narrative, and we can move towards those alternatives that are, and it's not even to control the narrative, right? It's just to allow the maximum number of people to have the maximum number of opinions and let there be a free market of ideas. What's necessary for that is a lot of people at this point, not even a lot, a minority of people, but those people will have a massive impact, embracing the alternatives, helping to build the alternatives, and a lot of the people who do that are going to get rich doing it. Zuckerberg, you know, now he's about to become a demagogue, but when Facebook first came out, it was a very free and open platform. That was the whole idea of it. You could say what needed to be said. You could share whatever you wanted to share. These things come around. Now's the time. And you can be involved. We talk about these alternatives. For those people who are ready to get off their ass and actually do something, countermarkets.com, you can go and get your first issue for free. And if you pay with cryptocurrency, you are going to get a huge discount if you subscribe. So countermarkets.com, trends and strategies for maximum freedom. Go and check that out. And with that, we're going to talk about some alternatives with our guest today, Mr. Dan Dix. Dan Dix is an investigative journalist and an award-winning documentary filmmaker. He is also the founder of the independent media outlet Press for Truth, which produces videos and documentary films about issues that the mainstream media often fails to report on. Dan Dix, welcome to the Vin Armani Show.
Thanks for having me, man. Glad to be here.
I am really excited to have you. I think that this is the perfect time, and I feel like even things that are going on with you kind of in your consciousness, I saw that you just recently re-released the audio and some video from your Acapulco talk. That's actually where we first met, down at the bar in Acapulco. And I think it's perfect. I think you were very prescient back in February. A lot has happened since then that has really borne out exactly what you're talking about. And you've been prescient on a lot of issues. A lot of people know your work with Press for Truth. I know that as a filmmaker myself, I've executive produced a feature film and tons of little small things. I know that it's a ton of work. It's something that when you devote yourself to it, people don't understand how we consume so much content. People don't understand just how much work it is. Before we get started getting into like the meat of this thing, I'd love to know a little bit more about how you decided that you were going to take the skill set that you have as a content creator and you were going to devote it to this particular movement.
You know, it's funny. I don't know that it was actually a conscious decision. It was really just the natural progression of my activism leading me eventually into getting into making films and eventually getting to the point of doing this full-time for a living. I think I got to the point where it wasn't like it was a conscious decision of me making a choice. All of a sudden, I actually remember a moment probably 5-6 years ago where it dawned on me, where I was just like, is this really what I'm gonna do with my life? Is this what my career is gonna be? I'm gonna be that guy? And it just realized, it just dawned on me that, yeah, I guess I am. I guess I am gonna be that guy. So it just kind of happened. I just kind of snowballed into this movement. I got involved, you know, I would say a while ago. I woke up, as we call it, around 1998, 1999 or so, and I got involved in activism, you know, early on. And it was shortly after 9/11 that I really started ramping up my efforts to get out in the streets, raise awareness about these types of issues. And then finally, by 2006, I decided, you know what, it's time to take this to another level and to actually, start something of my own. So that's when I launched Press for Truth, and I started attending various events, but showing up to them with the camera and just documenting them. And as I said, that just naturally kind of progressed into filmmaking. It just made sense to take the YouTube videos to their next level. And so, yeah, it was just a natural snowballing progression of activism over the years where I have managed to be able to be at a point now of doing this full time for a living.
So, having been in it for as the length of time that you have, I'm interested to know, because I mean, this goes directly to what we're talking about. How have you seen, because you've been able to see as a content creator, these platforms morph from being this sort of the next hope for humanity and really providing the platform for all of these disparate and new and different points of view, especially as it relates to 9/11, and certainly the ideas of the New World Order, Illuminati, opening people's eyes to things like Bilderberg and Bohemian Grove, and you name it, right? Mm-hmm. To now, really, you can see the natural evolution. I'm interested to get your thoughts on moving into it, and then where you feel that it's at now, like what the difference is for you, and then where do you see this thing going?
Well, I've, as you said, witnessed an incredible progression within the movement over time. When I first started doing this, one of the first events that I covered with a camera as Press for Truth was Bilderberg in 2006 in Ottawa, Canada. And back then, there was literally 3 journalists there. No, there was 4. There was Daniel Estulon, Alex Jones, Jim Tucker, and myself, and maybe 10 protesters. Over the years, having attended a number of Bilderberg conferences since, I've seen it evolve to the point of thousands of people showing up. At some of these Bilderbergs, there were maybe upwards of 100 various alternative media outlets beginning to show up. So I've seen the progression, and not only within the movement, within mainstream society as well. Just being able to talk about these issues openly now is not quite so conspiracy theory related, or it's a little more acceptable to talk about some of these types of issues nowadays. So it's been great to see where we've come, but I think we're still in its infancy. I mean, there's still a lot of people out there who have to become aware of the information that we talk about. So I see, we're almost at like it's almost like a fork in the road where this can go a number of ways. And I heard you were mentioning earlier just blockchain technology and the potential for where this can lead this movement. I think in terms of blockchain technology, this could either enslave humanity or it can empower humanity. Yeah. And right now we seem to be at that sort of fork in the road where it could go either way. So I'm very interested in that lately as well. But no, it's been very interesting to see the progression over time. But I'm hopeful. I've seen a lot of people come and go throughout this movement who kind of get some things done over a number of years and then just kind of disappear. I would say consistency is the key. And if you stay consistent with your message and you're true to yourself and you're honest and you're into this for the right reasons, then it will work out for you. People will recognize the real deal when they see it.
So I want to talk about this idea of consistency, because I think it's very important. It's, as an agorist, like that's the whole idea, and that's the reason for to say that you want to move toward a stateless society, is because it's logically inconsistent. But I want to talk about, and I put a link in the description to your great presentation at Acapulco, and I think that you hit on something there. I'll let you summarize it. But what I want to ask you in doing that is, so many of us anarchists, whatever, libertarians, we have looked at the state as that is the great evil or the great monster. That is the thing that if we could only get rid of the state. And I think that we're seeing even this week with some of the statements from Zuckerberg where he's saying, like, actually, we're the New World Order. Like these few digital gatekeepers, we're the new world order. It's not the state. This is something that we didn't necessarily see coming. So, and we're going to be like, oh, well, the state's gone. But and this is private, and that's okay, and that has been the message of libertarianism for so long. I'd love to, if you could just briefly summarize the sort of the thesis of your presentation there, and let's walk through this idea of where do we go next now that it's looking like it's not going to be the state.
Well, we have to consider what is the state, when we're trying to talk about how are we going to dissolve this thing and deal with this problem that we have. And when you think about what it is, essentially it's a group of individuals, really. Mm-hmm. And when you break it down to that macro level, we see on the individual basis, what is it with these people that makes them want to have more money today than they did yesterday, or want to be able to have more power over somebody else's lives? I think we need to look more at what's going on with people as opposed to the state, because I think the problems lie within the hearts of mankind, where on the individual basis there is a problem there inherently within humanity, with covetousness, for example, wanting things, not being satisfied with what you have. I mean, look how many times we see it in society with rock stars, movie stars, famous people who seem to have everything they want, money, fame, but they're not happy. A lot of these people don't have real joy in their lives. So when it comes to abolishing the state, this is something that I am obviously in favor for, but we have to recognize what the state is, and when we break it down to the individual level, we realize that inherently there's a problem with these people's ideologies and what they are striving for in life. And I think, it's that cliche, be the change you want to see in the world. We need to lead by example, essentially, and try to, show people what we need to do in order to move the world into a better place. So, yeah, in a nutshell, I think that's what I was trying to convey in my talk, that it's not enough just to seek to abolish the state, because the problems are inherently within mankind. That's what we need to work on, our individual beliefs within our hearts. Once we do that, then we can start talking about how taxation is theft, how we can abolish the state, and those sorts of things. But until we realize the problems that we have inherently within us, we're never going to solve the problems of the state.
So I think that kind of, and now I guess we can backtrack and then move forward, because I think that this draws sort of the Bilderberg concept in. I think a lot of people have now heard the term. I think now maybe, as you say, it's even penetrated out so far that it's gone beyond where it was. If we could get an idea of, like, because how I view it is, it's almost like no matter what structure you set up, like if you set up a church, there's this group of people that's going to take over the church, and the church will become oppressive, right? If you set up a government, this is if you're not willfully paying attention and making sure that these people don't get their claws into it. If you set up a government, even if it's a representative democracy, they'll eventually get their claws into it. If you set up a social network, they'll eventually get their claws into it. Can you talk to us a little bit, as somebody who's been covering Bilderberg, and this is kind of a lineage, and you've been covering this lineage of individuals who time and time and time again are the ones who get their claws in. What's the thing that connects them all together? What's the theme that runs through everything that they're doing, that is what's making them go out and want to take control of these technologies or these institutions that usually are instituted to make people more free, and then they use it to gain power? Why? Who are these people? What makes them different?
Well, first of all, we have to recognize that Bilderberg is an organization that consists of roughly around 120 to 140 people who meet every year. Now, these people are invited. You have to get invited to a Bilderberg meeting, and there's an inner circle within the inner circle, as I call it. And, there's a steering committee, there's an organizing committee, and there's a number of people who are invited to Bilderberg each year who are not necessarily involved in any kind of nefarious activities or even aware of any sort of agenda to formulate a one world government. In fact, I would almost go as far as to say that probably around maybe even 80 to 90% of the people who attend Bilderberg are not there for some sort of nefarious agenda. I think it's the inner circle within the inner circle is where we find the true agenda. And what motivates these people is very different from what motivates, those who are coming down this pyramidal structure.
Okay.
The people at the top are motivated by an all-out lust for not just wealth and power. They already have all the power. They already have all the wealth. They literally print the money.
Right.
So when you already have these things, what else is there to feed your lust and your desires? It's complete and utter control, absolute control over every single aspect of life, every single mechanism, every single product, every single organism on this planet needs to be controlled by these people. Because, again, here's a quote that's often misquoted from the Bible, is that money is the root of all evil, they say. And I would say, no, that's very incorrect. The quote is actually, it's the love of money that's the root of all evil. And that's a very big difference there. It's the greed, the covetousness, the wanting of it. The grass is always greener on your neighbor's side. That's the problem. Money's not the issue. We need money in a society to be able to properly function.
Sure.
If we got rid of money, there would just, we'd start trading in apples and oranges or something, and that would just become the new money. So that's one of the things, too, I think people need to be more aware of as well.
So you, in your talk, said something that I found really fascinating, and I think that I agree with it, by the way, but it's this idea that this particular group that you're talking about, that is this top of the pyramid, these ones who want to control everything, they don't actually care whether the system is a system of the state, whether it's a system of all private businesses, whether it's a pure, as the libertarians would say, it won't be a free market, certainly, but whether it looks a little more free, whether it's private industry and all of this as opposed to government-run institutions. Can you talk a little bit about, and just to clarify, because I think it's so important that we're talking about focusing on the core, focusing on the disease as opposed to the symptoms, right? We see the government as the symptom and we're like, just abolish the government. But this group that we're talking about, these individuals who are really out, they don't even care that it's government in particular. That's just, that's arbitrary to them.
Yeah, sorry. Which group are you referring to?
Well, the people at the top of the pyramid that would be represented by Bilderberg. That they don't necessarily care that it's a state in particular, right? That they would be just as happy to control a series of private corporations if that meant more control. Right.
Well, yes, exactly. It's all for them. It's all about oneness, unity, to eventually leading towards a one world government, one world cash system, one world police system, one world religion. So yes, the mechanisms to which we arrive at that end, it really doesn't matter to them so long as we get there. So yeah, that's one of the things I outlined, is that within the anarchist libertarian movement, it is very possible that it could still lead to an authoritarian endgame, where somebody out there would still, for example, as I said in my talk, want to put a microchip in your body, for example. And if this is a decentralized system or things of that nature, the elite is going to be okay with that, so long as you're willing to get join up with this on a global level. So yeah, we have to be very aware of the mechanisms that are being put in place to potentially enslave humanity. And, that's why I often talk about how blockchain technology could potentially be a Trojan horse. This could be something that's going to empower humanity and free us from the clutches of our centralized oppressors. Or this could be something that's going to completely enslave humanity. I think we're kind of at a fork in the road as far as that technology. So, where we go from here is really up to us. I think we're at an incredible historical moment where the elite sees the awakening that's happening. They see this blockchain technology starting to get more and more popular, and they need to gain control of that before we do. So it's really exciting time to be involved in this movement and raising awareness about this stuff.
I totally agree with you, and it's something that I communicate to people when I get deeper into it. So my background's as a software developer, and I've been developing on the blockchain, and I'm obviously a big cryptocurrency advocate. But what I realized very, very early on was that, well, if you have a facial scanner that's just getting a data set about your face, I can hash that. I can hash that and turn that into a Bitcoin address if I want to. And that will be your Bitcoin address, or your DNA, or your blood, or your brain, your unique brain waves. Like, it's very likely that it will come to a point where, and people will take it because it's easier, right? Where they'll be like, no, you can have your own tied to your fingerprint. Look, we've already got it. We've got fingerprints opening phone. We've got faces opening phones. And it's like, people are taking it themselves. They're putting themselves into that matrix. So, because they're unaware, right? So I guess that gets us to the next place, right? Now that we're starting to talk about, okay, we need to be a little more aware, both that there are these individuals that want control, and that we don't want, the only way that they can have it, or the way that they've gotten it in the past, is that a generation has basically given it to them, has ceded control to them. What do we do with our consciousness? Or what do you believe we do with our consciousness in order to make ourselves more aware, in order to inoculate our consciousness from us basically giving it away, as Christian says, like the vampire, letting the vampire into the house?
Well, I think first of all, we need to be aware that we're being manipulated by stealth. And this is being done, very covertly. Let's take it back to the point when, let's say, Adolf Hitler, for example, wanted to just take it by brute force, create this new world order system by just doing it. Well, the elite learned a lot from that you can't just go ahead and try to do it like that. The people are going to resist. They're going to rise up and they're going to fight it, and they're going to win. So they realized it has to be done more stealthy. It has to be done through utilizing the education system, the mainstream media, and over time they've managed to gain control of these mechanisms to manipulate society into going along with these things. So I think we need to become aware, conscious of the fact, first of all, that we're being lied to nearly every day from the moment we were born, from the moment we walk into that indoctrination education program called schools. We're constantly being indoctrinated into going along with the system, and I think people need to get to a point of having to swallow their pride a little bit and maybe admitting to themselves that maybe they're not exactly fully aware of how things are going, and maybe they've been lied to from society, from their parents, from their schools, from various churches, from lots of aspects of society that have been usurped, infiltrated, and taken over by these people. So we have to recognize that there is that control mechanism, and once you start to realize that, you start questioning everything. That's, I think, why we call it going down the rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm.
Once you open up that door, there's no turning back. So first of all, I think it's absolutely crucial and key for people to be aware of the fact that we're being manipulated in the first place. And people need to often come to these realizations on their own. Somebody doesn't want to be told about these things. You often have to feel that you've discovered this on your own. Again, maybe that's part of our prideful nature, which is why I think we need to do away with our pride, admit to ourselves maybe we don't have all the answers, and then you can honestly, openly educate yourself, have honest discussions with other people, and learn about how we can progress as a society. So I would say awareness is key at this point. Continuing to spread awareness through shows like yours, programs like mine, to let people know that there's a problem in the first place, and then giving them the tools to be able to educate themselves. You know, with my own family, for example, my sister wasn't really interested in, you know, she's into health issues. So I started talking to her about vaccines and chemtrails and stuff like that. My dad, that wouldn't have worked for him, but he's more interested in finances and in the economy. So I gave him a copy of the Money Masters, for example, and you know, that got him into it. And my mom was more into the spirituality stuff side of things, so I taught her about how these guys are into the occult and, you know, Bohemian Grove and stuff like that. And then they all on their own came to these realizations themselves. So I would just say, raise awareness that there's a problem in the first place, and then plant those seeds so that others can discover that they've been lied to for themselves.
So I see a lot of people now starting to create content. I think it's fantastic. A lot of new content creators, a lot of people inside the movement. One thing that I find different, I think, than certainly when I first started consuming this media, and people like yourself and the others that have been around for a long time, it felt like everybody had, and still those individuals had their own lane, their own avenue, the things that they were truly passionate about. I feel like people who are starting today, because there is actually an audience and because you can actually sort of ping that audience and there's a demographic for this, tend to, I'm seeing that there's a lot of derivative content, and it's a lot of people who want to create content, but when I'm asked by these content creators, a lot of times if they ask for advice, what I'll tell them is try to do something that you are not seeing. Like, that's the whole thing. If you've seen content that's out there that you like, that you've consumed, that's educated you, you don't need to do it again. Right? And I mean, this is my own opinion. Maybe it needs to be a deluge, but how do you choose, and what has been your methodology for choosing what you're going to devote your time to in terms of the stories that you're going to cover, the documentaries that you're going to make? What's your value system? How do you rank those in terms of which ones you go after?
I kind of take it day by day at this point. I literally take it day by day. I'm going to be producing a video to later today. I'm going to be producing a video tomorrow, and I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to be talking about. It depends on what's going on. But I have learned to adapt and evolve over time to my audience, and it's not about just giving them what they want to see or catering to what you think the audience wants. You have to do what you want. But I've also learned how to adapt over time and to mix up my video styles, so to speak. So I might put out a documentary style video that's a little more slick edited with B-roll and music, or I might put out a jump cut type video where it's a little more quickly edited, or I might do a screen grab type video where I'm just showing some research I've done on the screen, or sometimes I'll do a walk and talk, unedited, straight one take vlog. It's good to mix it up, basically, and to try different things. And I enjoy doing that. It keeps it interesting for myself. So yeah, tomorrow we're going to see what's happening in the news, and then I'll decide, well, what am I feeling today? Do I want to go doc style? Do I want to go jump cut style? Do I want to do a walk and talk vlog? Do I want to maybe get a guest on to interview about this particular topic? That's pretty much how I take it. And as far as, topics, documentary films and things of this nature, it's really what's going on around me, what's happening in my life. Right now, there's a documentary that's potentially in the works, simply because I've amassed a large amount of footage dealing with this issue, and it's a huge issue that's important to a lot of Canadians, and that is the coming legalization of cannabis in Canada. And I've been following this for a couple of years now, and I literally have enough content now to be able to put together a solid film. So that's simply the reason why I'm started thinking about that particular doc, is because I've been covering this for a while. I've got a lot of great footage. It's a really important issue that I feel is going to eventually be the gateway to liberty, because once you realize how the government has lied to you about cannabis use, you can start to understand how they lie to you about other things. So yeah, I take the news day to day, and then when it comes to documentary films, it's you know, whatever. Right now, it's exposing what's happening with cannabis legalization.
Okay. We did okay. I thought that we lost you. Christian is telling me
still
that.
got you?
No, we got you back. We got you back. Christian's telling me that weird things are happening with Facebook after we showed our little Zuckerberg thing. They've been trying. Yeah, they've been trying to do some things, and we've had some workarounds with them. But we'll see what this looks like after the show. I just wanted as a last thing, because it seems like we may be getting. No, I think we're.
Sorry, you're cutting up a little bit. I'm not sure if you still got me.
No, we got you. We got you. Can you hear me, Dan? Can you hear me? Ah, there. It looks like we got you back. You got me? Dan? Have we lost him?
You there?
Yeah, are you there? No? See if you can reconnect with him. See if you can reconnect with him, Christian. Throw it over to me. Throw it over to me.
You're cutting in and out. Have you got me? Hello?
Yes, we'll get him back. We'll get him back. Go ahead and mute him. Go ahead and mute him until you get him back on. I think that there's a very important issue here, and it seems that Facebook is doing weird things. It may just be our internet connection, but we're going to take a look at it. I would not be surprised if they don't have that interview with Zuckerberg fired up, because it's an investigation, right? It's a embarrassment. So I would not be surprised if their algorithm didn't flag the Zuckerberg interview.
It's weird. It went. I keep an eye on during the show. I keep an eye on the live feeds.
Yeah.
And
we'll throw to both of us.
Black.
Throw to both of us until you get him back. So what happened?
It went completely black on the activist post page.
Wow.
Like, yeah.
Well, but it's been being weird. Maybe Facebook is doing that thing again. I mean, they've.
See, look.
Okay. Yeah. Who the hell knows? Wow. So yeah, so there it is live. See if you could see if you could get him back. I hope it's not our overall connection, dude. I hope it's not our whole connection. It wouldn't be our connection.
No.
I hope not.
No.
Well, that's
the
really
connection
shitty.
Is strong.
That's really shitty. Well, we'll see if we can get him back. I'd like to at least end it off with him. No? Well,
No, nothing.
very strange. Well, let's
Oops.
wow. No, still nothing.
Nothing.
Well, we got plenty of time. So, let's oh, there he is. Let's see if we can get him back. All right. Go ahead and throw back to he and I, if you would, and unmute him. I think, do we have you back?
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. My
All good.
connection seems to have gotten
All
not
good.
good.
All good, all good. What I wanted to, since we're having we've had so many weird things happen with, obviously the thing with YouTube and activist posts thing, we've been demonetized so many times. Now I'm just taking the monetization off because we sell our own products, so it's not even necessary. We don't even make enough from that. But now with Facebook, and this is like the third or fourth thing that's gone on with Facebook, so activist post is definitely getting throttled from them, and we've been banned on our account, and not banned, but like had weird them preventing us from getting on. I want to talk with you about this move. We've been relying on all of these platforms, which are great technological platforms, right? Which have changed certainly how media is delivered and has increased the number of voices that are out there. I want to get your opinion as someone who's been doing this for quite a while and who's seen all of this. What do you think are the alternatives? What do you think are the things that people should be paying attention to? What are the things that you're thinking about and considering yourself as you see this all come down?
Well, I'm really interested lately, particularly because of the YouTube adpocalypse.
Yes.
I'm really interested right now in Steemit and Steemit.com, and the issuance of Steam dollars, the cryptocurrency, has been able to supplement my income. From losing ad revenues from YouTube. Steemit.com has been an incredible avenue for me to be able to generate those revenues that I lost from YouTube. And I'm sure your audience is familiar with Steemit.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously the DTube that was built on top of that is an excellent video sharing platform that's just an alternative option for people to use outside of the centralized, the control and censorship of YouTube. So I'm pretty excited about DTube and Steemit. I'm posting there regularly. All my videos go there. So steemit.com, I would highly encourage people to check out, and then start posting their content on DTube.video as well. And that's certainly one that I would point people towards. Another company that I'm interested in right now, that I'm doing some research into, is Hive Blockchain at hiveblockchain.com. And these guys are, some of the ones who are attempting to move this into the area of empowering humanity, right, as I said, as opposed to, the elite gaining control of this. So I've been paying attention to what they've been doing as well. And just last week, they listed publicly on the Toronto Stock Exchange, which is very interesting to me. So those are some of the things I've been paying attention to, and I would encourage others to as well. Check out hiveblockchain.com and check out steemit.com. Both of these organizations are moving humanity through blockchain technology towards a more decentralized platforms that are meant to empower the individual as opposed to the centralized planners.
So right now we've got you, you said that you're very interested mainly because you have the content in working on, and because it's a hot topic issue, obviously, the cannabis legalization. Are there any other issues that you have on your radar that you think are particularly important for people to be paying attention to, that you see as stories that are on the brink of really breaking into something important?
Well, there's a lot of things going on here in Canada right now. With our laws are being changed drastically. We're having some serious immigration issues. We're having some problems with the fact that our Prime Minister is a feminist, and he's pushing transgender rights issues to the point that it's becoming oppressive to other people like me. They are beginning to police our language here in Canada. They are passing bills to make it a law that you would have to use someone's preferred gender pronoun. So if somebody wants to be called a she, instead of a he, and you refer to him as a her, you could go to jail essentially for a hate crime. And I think that is a very dangerous, very slippery slope that we're leading into all-out tyranny here in Canada. So that's a topic that I've been exploring lately, and that I want to expose. Obviously we're and accepting people. We want to be accepting of other people's beliefs. Somebody can call themselves whatever they want to call themselves. Right. That's totally fine. I'm fine with that. But when you are enforcing the government to force me to have to suspend reality and recognize you as your preferred pronoun, I have a serious problem with that. So that's an issue that I want to raise more awareness about in the coming weeks and months here in Canada, because I think it's going to continue to be an issue here as they continue to pass these bills, restricting our ability to just be able to rationally discuss these things with people without being called bigots or being labeled with being involved in a hate crime. So that's one of the issues that I think is important for people to know is happening here in Canada anyways, that our rights are being trampled under this LGBTQ community, who are even going to the point now of potentially taking away people's children under Bill 89 if they refuse to recognize the child's preferred gender. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah, that one's wild.
Yeah. So it's literally getting that bad. So I want to focus a little bit more of my efforts into exposing what's going on there.
It's very interesting. Yeah, we had Jordan Peterson on and obviously that was the issue that sort of broke him into the public. I think it's very important. I think that it's something that people need to pay attention to. We talk about a lot of these slippery slope issues here on the show. So, Dan, I think we're just about out of time, but if you could let everybody know where's the best place to find your content, and maybe if you have any idea of when that documentary might be coming out.
Yeah, sure. You can check me out at pressfortruth.ca. And of course, everything goes on my YouTube channel. If you just type in Press for Truth into YouTube, you'll find it. As far as documentary release, as far as the cannabis documentary, I'd like to have something out before Canada Day of 2018, which is when they are kind of saying they're going to have legalization ready by. So I'd like to have the film out before then. So stay tuned. If I am going to do this, I'll have a trailer out long before that to let people know that that's going to be happening. So otherwise, you can stay tuned to my YouTube channel. As I said, I try to put out around 4 or 5 videos a week or so. And if you want to support my efforts, you can check me out at patreon.com/pressfortruth. Or as you guys know, they're not necessarily the bastions of freedom of speech anymore. So you can also support my work at pressfortruth.ca/donate if you're interested in contributing.
Excellent, excellent. Dan Dix, thank you for being on the show. We will definitely have you back on again, and if that documentary is if that's in the works as well, I'd love to have you back on to talk about that, because I think it's an important issue. But thank you for being on the show, Dan Dix, founder of Press for Truth. We will see you again.
Awesome. Thanks so much, man. Take care.
Man. So, Christian.
Yeah.
There you are. So Facebook went completely black on us.
Yeah,
huh?
it's doing something weird. I don't know what it is.
It may just be our system. It may just be coincidence, or it may not.
No.
We've had enough issues with them. I'm going to be interested to watch it and see when it goes black.
I think it was right after that. I could be wrong, but I keep it pretty, because I invite a lot of people to the show. And stuff too,
so you would think, right, that the algorithm, that they would definitely have that very embarrassing moment in the Facebook algorithm.
Absolutely.
Right? You would think they'd have that flagged.
Absolutely.
But that is just, it's funny because I feel like it comes full circle. Because when it's reached that point, when you can't take criticism of you, of yourself, when what you do is when others try to criticize you, you shut them down, you deplatform them, instead of taking a look at yourself.
Yeah.
You're nothing but Kim Jong-un at that point.
It's very interesting that happened too, because it's exactly what we were talking about.
It's exactly what we're talking about.
It's kind of spooky. Crazy.
It's not that it's spooky, it's that it's like it's par for the course.
Yeah.
It's exactly why these are the exact individuals who can't have power.
Yeah.
This is the mark of the individual who should not have power, right? So this is what's interesting, and it's something that I've talked about. If people want to go and check out the Ascendant Project, which is a video series that I did, it's on YouTube. Actually, with me talking about it, a lot of people have gone and checked it out. It's a study. It's to understand that there are cycles. Right? And I think a lot of people get caught up on the particular technology that's active at a given time, right? So whether it was the Roman Empire and the emperor, and then it became the Catholic Church, and then it became the kings, and then it became a representative democracy, whatever the control, and now it's corporations, whatever the control mechanism is, it's not important. Like every new technology, as Dan said, which is perfect, it has the opportunity to save you or enslave you. It's just who's got control. It's like fire. Fire can warm your house in the right hands, in the hands of someone who's a good person, who's an ethical person, who's a moral person. Fire can be used to warm a house. It can be used to cook food. It can be used to power a steam engine. Or it can be used to burn someone at the stake, to burn down a village. It can be used for either or. It's just a piece of technology. So when people get caught up on the technology and say, oh, this technology can liberate us, or they get caught up on the technology and they say, this technology is just altogether evil, they're missing the point.
Yeah.
It's about whose hands it's in. And every technology, eventually, if it becomes powerful, those people who are at the top of that pyramid, those psychopaths, the true psychopaths, have the greatest motivation to attain power over it. And so the goal is always to be moving the wheel forward, creating the new technology that initially saves and takes you out from enslavement, but then to know it's going to enslave us again. You know, and that's the whole idea, even in the Declaration of Independence, is Thomas Jefferson is saying, you know what? In the course of human events, it sometimes becomes necessary for people who have had a bond, for people who have who are underneath a structure to move past the structure and to form something new. This is something that happens, and you have a right to be able to do it. But it's a choice. It's not easy. That's the most important thing. You're going to have some pain in making that choice, because the easy one will always be the most established one.
Yeah.
And the most established one will always be the one that has the most hooks of psychopaths inside of it. Because the psychopaths get it, and then they want to add more people. So they make it easier.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too when he was talking about Bilderberg and the circle and then the kind of outer shell. It totally makes sense to me that they don't really give a fuck about the government.
No, they don't care.
No, it's just they would sacrifice it in a heartbeat, you know, and they have.
Oh, sure.
They're sacrificing the politicians. I mean, with Hillary Clinton
Sure.
and all that, they burned
They
her.
don't
at the
give a
stake.
fuck.
Yeah, you know, and they allowed her to do it to herself, you know, and they use that as kind of a shell. But what they're really concerned with is like the control, you know, the how do we control, and it's reflexive, and
Of course.
it's all that stuff, the principles that we.
And this is so all of the stuff that we talk about, it's like they have a vested interest in really understanding this shit.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
So like for them, the whole world is this.
Yep.
And the idea is very much the path of least resistance. Like if you will willingly give away your freedom in exchange for something, security, that's what Ben Franklin said, right? If you'll give up your if you'll give up your freedom in exchange for security, then someone who would do that deserves neither, and they will receive neither. And so that's what it is, like a little bit of ease. Your life will be easier. We'll give you universal basic income.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll just give you
There's
money.
that vampire.
Well, what do I do? No, just don't do anything. Don't do anything. No, it's fine. Don't think about anything. Don't question anything. Just take the money. Just take the money. You're done. You're done.
Toast.
And then it's like, take the money. Oh, and you got free health care too. Free health care? Yeah. Oh, and these free shots. We're going to give you all your vaccinations. Come in, we've got a new vaccine. Oh, we've got a new, the food has got you feeling sick. Your cholesterol is high and you're obese and you got diabetes. We've got a new shot for that. Here, take this shot. And you're sterile. And you willingly went and did it.
Yep.
You know, you got to figure, like when people are looking out for the last version, and it's like, don't be looking out. There's not going to be another fucking Hitler. There's not going to be another Hitler, just like you're not going to be able to go and find a computer that's got Windows 3.1 on it. Windows 3.1
Right.
don't run in this system.
Exactly.
Hitler don't run in this system.
No.
It doesn't look like that.
They got to be smarter than that.
Stop looking for a fucking Hitler.
Yeah.
Stop looking for a Stalin. You're not going to find one. It's not about killing a bunch of people. It's about
Controlling them.
But what you do look out for is you look out for that was great when Jeffrey Tucker was on and he talks about it. You look out for the kernel of an idea, because the kernel of the idea of Windows is still here.
Right.
It's not Windows 3.1, it's Windows 10, but it's still fucking Windows. There's still a lot of elements that are very similar, and you could still look and be like, oh, that's what, even someone who was like Windows 3.1, they see Windows 10, they could pretty much figure out how to use it, but it's definitely not the same thing. Not even close.
Yep.
That's what it is. It's important to it's not important that you're looking at the government. No, it doesn't have to do with the government. It doesn't have to do with the government as it stands. It has to do with control mechanisms, the technology of control. How do you get people to give up control? They won't give up control anymore because to a man in the sky. That worked in the past. They won't give up control anymore to march in lockstep under some banner. They won't do that, but they'll do it in other subtle ways.
Spoonful of sugar.
Or not. Or the reverse. It's like, yeah. Divide into these little groups. Kneel at the anthem. Do that. And now you divide, and now you divide. And now all of you group under this, and all of you group under this. Great. And then we'll control the top of this, and we'll control the top of this. And we'll let you fight. But and this is what I've always found interesting, is like, you're fighting, but you speak the same language, you wear the same clothes, you eat at the same places, you drive the same cars, you have the same phones, you use the same apps, you're on all the same social networks. They don't fucking care. They don't fucking care. Like I was telling you, all these football players who are kneeling, none of them aren't playing.
Yeah, exactly.
And the people who are watching, some of the people, I'm glad they kneeled. Did anybody turn off the TV? Did anyone turn off the TV?
No, in fact, it magnetized it. It like sucked them into it.
People who didn't normally watch football
turned
it on.
Oh my God.
Turned it on, and Budweiser won.
Yeah.
Ford won.
Yeah.
How can we get more people to participate in this mind-numbing cultural ritual? And as I was telling you, I love football, and I played it from a very young age and all the way up through high school, and I fucking love it. I love the game. But in the past several years, it's been very difficult for me to watch because it's turned into such a pageant and such a ritual as opposed to a game. You know, it's way more about the ritual. It's way more about the pageantry, which I'm not into. I don't own a jersey. You know, I've always said, why would I wear another man's work shirt around?
Seriously.
Like, some strange man, I'm gonna be proud to wear the shirt that he wears to work? Like, who the fuck am I? Am I his wife or his girlfriend? Like, that's for wives and girlfriends to do. Like, you know, put on the dress shirt that he wears, you know, and just wear it around the house and like feel, oh, it smells like him. You know what I mean? That's what you're doing when you put on a jersey.
It's weird.
It's the most weirdest, like homoerotic, like strange, and then cheer for him while he's at work. Go, go! Oh yeah, that's so great.
Yeah, I was watching that behavior yesterday at work, and man, I was blown away.
But here's the thing: did it make less people participate in that behavior, or more people participate in that behavior?
Oh, yeah,
made more people participate. Donald Trump doing that was great marketing for the NFL
and politics.
There's not a single person whose mind changed about Donald Trump because of that tweet.
Yeah, it's either they're on one side or the other.
They were already divided. That tweet didn't. There was nobody who was like, you know what? I was a huge Trump supporter until he said that thing about the guys kneeling with the NFL. Now, you know what? I was going to vote for him, but now I'm not. No. So it's like, it costs nothing. Nothing. And the people on both sides, it's like, the more you say his name, the more power he gets. He's using you. And this is what we're talking about. Like, people don't understand. There are people out there who know the tools to be able to manipulate individuals and to be able to manipulate groups are out there. They're out there. And if you allow yourself to fall in to the emotions that they want you to have, you're fucked.
Yeah, that's where it is, too, is in the emotion.
It's all emotion.
Yeah.
It's all emotion. If you have some amount of rationality, that's how you inoculate yourself. That's how. And it's about educating yourself to the fact that, yes, these techniques actually exist. You know, what's one of the interesting things in seduction? There would be, like, within the community from time to time, there would be, like, these women who appeared, right? Usually, like, thought of themselves as very sort of feminist. And they would be like, well, I really want to know what's going on in this whole situation. And, or there would be women who, you know, there was a certain subset of guys who, like, kind of wanted to treat it like it was some sort of like secret magical thing. But the truth of the matter is, you can tell somebody. You could be like,
Yeah.
I could tell a woman. I could be like, oh yeah, I'm really into, like, you know, the whole pickup thing, seduction. Oh, what's that? Oh, it's this, and she'd be like, oh, that would never work on me. You could never. And by the end of the night, she'd be in my car. We'd be going back to my place. And it's like, well, but you didn't use any of that on me. You didn't do any of that to me. It's like,
Yeah, it comes down to, actually I was thinking about this. If you went up to a person and you started arguing with them, like if you went against their behavior or against their belief system first, you would actually, it's kind of what Donald Trump does. You would get them to invest in you. They would invest.
Absolutely.
They would invest, and then you can reverse it and actually get them to comply. You know, it's interesting. It's crazy.
I mean, this is the bug in the human brain.
Yeah.
I think what's important is for people to understand that there is a bug in the human brain.
Right.
The only way to inoculate yourself is to first recognize that there is a bug in the human brain. The second is to get a firm grasp on principles.
Yeah.
On moral and ethical principles. It's the only fucking ground you have to stand on. Not preferences, not a political preferences of choosing left and right, red or blue, kneel or stand. It's literally, that's what it is. Now it's kneel or stand.
Right.
There's literally a hashtag, take the knee.
Cash or credit.
Cash or credit. Like, it doesn't matter.
No.
You're still playing the game.
Pay.
You're literally still playing the game. Whether you kneel or you stand, you're playing the game. Literally and figuratively. And what they want is for you to play the game. What we're pushing for is to help people to play a different game.
Create your own.
Create your own lane. Create your own rules. It's to realize that's the final level of consciousness.
Absolutely.
Is to say, this is what Piaget said, that as in child development, the psychology of child development, that it's first you embody the game, you're able to play the game, but you don't know the rules. Right? This is what kids do. Little kids do. They can't articulate the rules. Then you get a level of consciousness where you can articulate the rules and say, oh, no, I know how the rules of this game goes. That's that. Then you realize, oh, I can make my own games and my own rules. I've been participating in a game that the rules were made by someone else. And I've been treating it as though it's like this eternal structure that's always existed. Like the rules of football football is an invented game. Basketball is an invented game. We can invent our own games. You think about all the effort and the energy and the mindset and the conscious energy that is being invested into this group of men who for a living play an arbitrary game. It's arbitrary.
Very interesting.
A first down wouldn't have to be 10 yards. It could have been 15. It could have been 7.
Right.
It could have been 3 downs instead of 4. And the rules change over time.
I was thinking about, as you're talking about that, I was thinking about the 3 scales of consciousness.
Okay.
Victim, victor, vehicle.
Okay.
And it kind of relates, it's that exactly. It's also knowledge, experience, wisdom. Those things go hand in hand.
Well, most people are stuck at the victim phase.
Yeah, at the victim.
And Donald Trump plays that very well.
Yeah.
Like, but you look at this, whole kerfuffle with the NFL standing, sitting. It's all victim, right?
Yeah.
On one side, you got people who think
Completely.
they're being victimized by Donald Trump, and on the other side, you've got a group of people who are like,
We're going to beat Donald Trump.
Boycott the
Yeah.
NFL and all the
That's the
you're
victor.
you're against the flag and people died. People died for you to be able to kneel down and all that. And it's like, dude, stop acting like you're a victim too.
Yeah.
Like they did something.
The
Like
vic-
this man kneeling didn't do shit to you. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. He didn't do a goddamn thing to you. And at the same time, Donald Trump didn't do shit to you either. By tweeting that you should be fired for not standing, he didn't do shit. It's 140 characters. Stop being a victim. You're 6'5", 275 pounds. You run a 4.40. You hit like a Mack truck, and 140 characters from this fat dude with bad hair and who's
Oh my
thousands
God.
of miles away hurt you.
Exactly.
Hurt
And
your
you're
widow
crying,
feelings.
and you're crying about it?
You motherfucker, like
You
you're
have-
a pussy. I thought you were hardcore. I thought you were an alpha male.
Yeah.
You're a little bitch.
Exactly.
You're a bitch, and you're showing that you are. And that's and the people on the other side who are like, these colors don't run. Oh, but that guy over there, the football man, kneeled down. He hurt my feelings. I can't take it anymore. I don't know what to do. And boycott the NFL. You're a bitch too. You're a bitch too. What happened to you with the gun rack and you
Right.
know your hardcore and your lifted truck and why? Yeah, I'm out here. I'm doing my thing, drinking beers. I'm a real man. Football man hurt my feelings. I don't know how to take it. Like, dude, what the fuck are we living in?
Seriously. It's like a bad movie that's so bad it's funny.
Well, and with that, we've come to the end of the show, man. So I'm going to say goodbye to the people. Well, thank you for joining us. I want to say thank you to my guest, Dan Dix. Thank you very much for coming on. Pressfortruth.ca, you can go and check him out there. Thank you, Christian, for today. You can check us out on iTunes and Stitcher. I will see what happened with Facebook, and we'll try to get up the rest of the show. The second part, whatever got clipped out, we'll see. Maybe we will get completely banned from Facebook, too. It'll be par for the course. But you can still go and you can check out the archive, vinarmani.com. And I am putting stuff up there that is attached to DTube, so we'll be good in that regard. All of our podcasts are on IPFS, so we're already there, and I'm working on some solutions for that as well. So we will see you next week, Monday, 10 a.m., and until then, stay free.